All in all, it gets to the stage sometimes where financing your business is just one extra headache. But really, we don't want to talk ourselves into a state of depression. Somebody was saying earlier this week, I did hear, that an important part of leadership in a business of any size is to make sure that however worried you are, however depressed you might be about the situation, when you go to employees, you've got to put on a positive face. So just remember that and not let all your employees see you in that sort of state. Right, let's have a look at some of the sources of finance that we might do for. And we'll also have a look to see where they might come from. And I did notice, despite the fact that I sourced this picture quite newly, I'm sure that's an old 50p piece on there. And I couldn't quite work out that it was a 3 decimal penny that was underneath it as well. So these are all the sorts of places where a business can go and get finance. Building societies. Now, they're not going to give you a loan just to run your business, but if you've got a property asset in your business, don't think that a building society won't lend to a business on a commercial property. They do want to have commercial property as part of their portfolio. It's not just residential property that they're interested in. So do think of going to a building society. Sometimes it can be quite straightforward and simple, and it's nice to have part a loan from a building society that's just taking care of itself and trickling along the background. Public sector funding. Now that I'm including councils who are giving grants and assistance, as well as things like soft loans that you might get from organisations such as the Carbon Trust or the Princess Trust. Princess Trust really helps younger people who are in the early stages of a business. But soft loans are, just as I say, fairly soft and easy. They do have caveats, but then they won't be knocking on your door if you miss a payment, a repayment, and the interest rates are normally quite generous. Equity finance is something else. We looked at that with surprisingly high situation with the number of micro businesses that are taking on equity finance, and that can come from either business angels or venture capital investors. And we'll look at where and why. Family and friends. Always comes with a bit of a warning to get money from family and friends, because I would say if you're going to do that, always make sure that you do it with a formal agreement. You don't have to go to the expense of involving a lawyer, but make sure that you have proper terms then, stating how much, if any, interest you're going to pay, and when you are going to repay, and then look to stick to that. Just like going into business with a friend, that can ruin a friendship. Borrowing money can ruin a friendship. So, not to mention what it can do to families. So make sure that there's a formal agreement in place, that everybody understands and is happy with what is said, and you stick to that. And then hopefully that can avoid problems in the future. One that I just asked about, asset finance, be that on hire purchase or leasing. I did see some recent accounting proposals to bring the two very much together. It's often hard to tell the difference when you get an agreement whether something is a HP finance or it's a lease. But when I was in business looking to finance something like a computer, I would hope that the computer would last a minimum of 3 years, hopefully even beyond 4, but I would look at borrowing my finance over 3 years or sometimes 30 months, because I always liked to make sure that I had a period at the end when it was all mine or all the businesses. Always try to make the length of the funding that you get match the length of the life of the asset. So for a computer, I wouldn't look to borrow money over 3 years, so I would expect it to last, and the same sort of length for a car or a van. And then on invoice financing, which I touched on just a short moment ago, where for suitable businesses of a suitable size, turnover around typically 200,000 or above, and where you are invoicing your business customers. A bank can look to make an arrangement so that your debts are recovered by somebody else, but you get your cash slightly quicker. The downside is that you don't escape the bad debts. The bad debts still come back to you. So you don't escape that sort of thing. It's just a cash flow boost at a cost. So let's look at matching finance with purpose. Because, as I say, it's always important that things add up. In the old days, you could just do it a bit roughly, but nowadays we've got much more sophisticated equipment to help us doing this. So, step one goes back to early training, really, for me, was always trying to match up the asset that you've got with the length of the finance. So, we know in our personal lives, if we're buying a house, we'll get a mortgage, and it'll be 20, 25, sometimes even now 30 years, because we would expect a house to last that long. If we're buying a car, we would only look to have the finance stretching over the same life that we expect to have the car. So, property, as I've suggested, building societies are a good first call, and they will give you a longer term loan against this property asset that you expect to have for a long time. If you're looking at a need that's going to result in job creation, then there's some public sector funding around. I know RDAs are busy being disbanded, but business links are still there, and whatever the form of these new LEPs, local economic partnerships, are going to take, there is going to be business support coming out, and certainly the local councils and various authorities are going to be looking to boost employment in their particular patches. So there are all sorts of different grants available. And certainly at the moment, and I don't think it's going to change in the future, the Business Link portal is often a good way in to see what's available in your particular area.
Excuse me, sorry, what's LEP?
LEP, Local Economic Partnership, is what the government asked business and local councils to make submissions for. They had to be in by the start of this week, 6th of September. To how are you going to support local business and the economy in your local area following the demise of the regional development agencies. So if you're a young entrepreneur, as I mentioned before, there's the possibility of soft loans from organisations like the Prince's Trust. They're not huge sums. We're talking about a start-up grant of £2,000, but they will go up to £10,000 for equipment for your business. And it's soft insofar as long as you made a reasonable case to them, they will advance you the money. They're often more generous in terms of the risk profile. But it's a great organisation, and through the Prince's Trust, you will often have access to a business mentor, somebody who will come and give you the benefit of their experience without cost. It's all part of the Prince's Trust arrangement. If you've got a business that's in the high growth sector, then there's the availability of venture capital finance for a particular project. Venture capitalists look for an exit route, so they're not looking like some equity financiers to be in there for the particularly long haul. They're happy to be in for a short term while you achieve that high growth. They will get their return through the increase in value of the company while they're involved. They're then happy to exit and leave it to you, or if you want to then bring in some new equity partners. Similarly, if you're in a sector that's got a lot of innovation going on, something that's new and exciting, then business angels are happy to give equity finance. Business angels are often in there for the longer haul, but you never know what might happen if your business grows and grows, then either of these sorts of finance can find their exit route through going limited, sort of going to a public placing, which is what Sage did many years ago, of course. Went from being a private company to a public listed company. But perhaps that's somewhere in the future. If you've got a solid business and you're happy with the sort of risk profile, then you might feel that you want to share that opportunity with families and friends. Families and friends don't have to be a last resort.